Either you want to do it all yourself, or you want to grow and serve more customers and make more money at the same time. So the moment you realize that I cannot do it all myself, and you said, I want to do it differently, then your bridges are burned. Then there's nothing to it.
You feel that calling. So a lot of times what happens is somebody in their mid-30s who's been doing a corporate job for about 10-15 years gets fed up with it. So they've made the money now, so that fear of money is gone, but they feel they can be so much more, and they are not that person.
Your reality will almost never be surpassed by your highest vision for your future.
Hey guys, this is your friend Ashish. Thanks for joining the show, and it's my pleasure to interview the guys that you see on this channel. If you're new, please go check out the other videos that we have with amazing sales authors, funding consultants, investors, and business entrepreneurs, right? It's just an amazing journey, and you will learn so much in any 30-minute interaction that you watch, and that's just all free. Okay, today's guy is amazing. Okay, besides the fact that him and I have the same birth date, not birth year, this man's done it all. He started his sales career as a trainer in 90s, converted that into a business, having a team of trainers, traveled, trained a lot of people, got a lot of great recommendations, got a great expertise around that. And then in 2010, ended up investing in a company, Pipedrive, which eventually got sold just about a month or two before we did this interview. And he became a multi-millionaire, right? He's got a daughter, he's got a son, but this man is from the heart. He's very kind. He loves jamming. He loves playing music. And it was just an utmost pleasure to interview Pep Vine. And I hope you enjoyed this interview and take value out of it. It's a privilege, Pep, to have you for the interview, and all the stuff that you will have for the audience, especially entrepreneurs. I'm looking forward to it. So my first question is that what made you an entrepreneur, and how did that translate into sales?
It's interesting. I for the longest time, especially for the last 10, 15 years, I haven't thought of myself as an entrepreneur. But this, of course, is false, because I think anybody who decides to do sales and does sales on a commission basis, so without a guaranteed salary, immediately is an entrepreneur. If you would ask me what is the number one secret of being in a super abundant place financially, I would say the first place to start is not be afraid of getting paid by the results or on the commission. And that's the same thing that I think the first time when I became an entrepreneur was when I started selling books door to door at the age of 22. And then really, it was when I went into the training business. After finishing university, I worked 3 years as a sales manager in the food wholesale company. And then as I was training my own salespeople how to sell better and how to be more motivated, then after I finished this job, I realized, what could I do? And then one thing I thought, well, I could sell my time to multiple clients, not just one employer. And that's was really out of, I think, necessity, and just sort of things went to the right spots. There wasn't much to think about. The other option would have been another corporate job, which there was some on the table, like Colgate Palmolive and stuff like that, being a regional manager in the Baltics or in Russia or Ukraine. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down the same path. And I wasn't much old. I was 29 at the time. And then that kind of was the only logical next step for me.
So now, not everybody can do it in terms of becoming an entrepreneur. I think everybody should, but everybody can't. A lot of people watching this have taken that step. What are the fears that one has when he or she becomes an entrepreneur, and anything that you have as a formula that you use in motivation. We are talking about your book as well, right? The important questions, anything that people can use as a formula when they are in that low, when they're doubting their entrepreneurship.
Well, going back to the last answer and your first question, um, I think the primary fear is, can I make it? Can I be at least in the same financial position where I was as an employee, right? So because nothing is guaranteed. And so it was the same for me. But then I realized that if I do my sales training business right, and if I charge what the biggest players were charging, who were not that good at the time, in my opinion, then if I only do a couple of those training days per month, then I will be equal to what I was. So I think this question, can I sell enough time or enough product at a reasonably high price to get this turnover and profit that I need, at least need for my well-being. That's I think is a primary fear. I think. What do you
And
think?
well, I think that's where it gets started. And then I think every entrepreneur has this vision of himself or herself, ambitions which are bigger than money, and they think they can do big things, right? And that's how you become an entrepreneur. I think money is one part of it, but you feel that calling. So a lot of times what happens is somebody in their mid 30s who's been doing a corporate job for about 10-15 years gets fed up with it. So they've made the money now, so that fear of money is gone, but they feel they can be so much more, and they are not that person. And they see other people becoming that so much more, and now they want to go on that path. So I think once you cross what you said, your ambition is what drives you. And I think you asked that thing in your book, right? What is the most important thing to you as a person? And that's what motivates you on that path. So if we can speak about your book, can you tell me why did you write that book? And if somebody is going to read that book, what can they expect out of it?
I'm trying to make it as short as possible. Because, first, I was teaching sales and sales management, and then gradually, because within those seminars, the motivational component was always present. The thing that talked about goal setting and hard work and excelling and growing and all that. And so my seminars gradually moved to that direction, away from sales. I had a company and team of other trainers, and they kept doing the sales and the business part. And so I did those goal setting seminars, which were called Learning to Succeed. And within those seminars, I basically asked people over and over again, so how are things now? How would you like things to be in the long term, in the midterm, and what you should focus on, and how are you going to get it? And so this constant question, what do you really want, was within the 3 long days, was giving for people quite interesting and very nice returns for clarity and for ambition, for purpose, and for being driven. And so after many years of these seminars, I wanted to make this content available to everybody, who the ones that go to the library or buy the book. So that's why I wrote the book.
And because you moved away from sales and you got into building a team after goal setting and teaching that, on an entrepreneurship journey, how would you rate sales and how would you rate leadership as a skill? Which one is more important and why?
I didn't answer your first question fully. You asked about the fears, and I said the money part, because I think the second part that I'm going to make a link to this question now, is that people often compare themselves with somebody else who is great in that field, and they ask, do I have enough to contribute? Can I be as good as X or Y? And so that is a question of self-esteem that starts shaking a little bit. But then the other thing is that, can I sell? Can I present myself to enough clients to make it worthwhile? Can I be seen? And so from that perspective, especially when somebody starts solo as a solo entrepreneur, sales is definitely more important. And so but in other case, if you want to build something bigger, then your personal leadership skills, I think, prevail in that situation. They become more important than sales. So the answer to your question depends on what your ambition is and how many people you want to employ and how big you want to be and how well known you want to be and how many people you want to serve and all that, And then I would even take one step further from the leadership skills. I would single out recruiting skills, attracting people that are good fit for you, are good fit for the business, and then leadership skills come into play.
Can you elaborate on the recruitment part? I think it is a very important point. What does that really mean when you say the right fit and the right people for you?
Okay. What it means is that also, like in my book, the most important question, one of the key things, the second key thing really is self-knowledge, knowing yourself, knowing who you are, what are your strengths and weaknesses. And then one of the most central things is your values as a human being. So what type of human traits and ways of working you appreciate, you think are cool, like you, and like people who want to work with you, they probably should be the same way. And so the more clear you are about your own personal and business values, then you start sort of looking out for people who are a match in that way. Of course, they have to have some basic skills, but skills can be learned and taught. Values are so much harder to instill. So I think maybe the simple way to put it is that when you want to recruit a team, you need to look for outstanding people who are like-minded or like-hearted to you, and then make a connection and see if they feel the same way. So that's the answer to that question.
And can you give an example of how did you build your team? What was your mindset? What was your heart? And how did you find these people? Any specific flow of example that would really help them visualize how you did it?
The beginning was, one might even say, almost by luck. The very first team member, who today is still 20 some years later, my best friend, he was a client, and several of my team members were originally clients. And then he came to me, he said, well, I'm between jobs, and then I'm thinking about maybe I could do the seminar thing. Can I please work with you, work in your team? And I hadn't thought about this. It was just me and my wife. We started this company together, and she was supporting and I was doing the work. And so I thought, when he asked, can I work with you? And then I looked over my shoulders, like, who is here? And so, and then and then we were like sort of courting for 3 months, and I was inviting him to seminars and having many lunches and over to my house. And so it was like almost like not exactly getting married, but somehow I made this very important. Later on in my work life, sort of this lengthy and very personal interviewing and conversations and recruitment procedures applied. But later on, we just started looking out for people that I think, or my partners thought, were shining and that they had something to say and they had this energy about them that I thought they would make a great sales trainer. And so basically, I approached and said, like, have you ever thought about like instead of them approaching me, I approached them, and that got the ball rolling. So that was how I did it at the time.
So I want to ask you one question on that and a couple more for the interview. Sometimes it becomes difficult for an entrepreneur to let go and trust other people to do the work that he or she has been doing so far in the business.
Yes.
It seems like you were able to trust these people to be good sales trainers, and you knew that they would do a good job. Is it something natural that came to you? And if somebody does not have it naturally, how do they build this skill set, of letting go and trusting other people to do the job?
And that comes back to the question of ambition, I think. So, like we said before, either you want to do it all yourself, or you want to grow and serve more customers and make more money at the same time. So the moment you realize that I cannot do it all myself, and you said, I want to do it differently, then your bridges are burned. Then there's nothing to it. And I didn't want to do it all myself. So, and you're right, I had, with a short time, that was a year and a half or so, I had built a rather decent reputation in those business circles. And then my seminars were great, and then people liked them and got value out of them. And the clients, when we went to sell, and I was proposing, would you like to this person to work with your team and that person? And they said, no, we'd like you to work with our team. And I said, I'm sorry, but my price is double than theirs, and my calendar is pretty full. And so I actually was pushing and promoting them heavily at first. And that is difficult. And that you have to trust that people can do your work your way, but also their way. And then you allow them to do, and then you see what comes out of it. And that has a lot to do with training those people, at the same time supervising and supporting and helping and monitoring and coaching, basically. And those two people I was referring to, they later on went to found a very successful IT company, which is geared for safety. And so I'm very happy that 20 years later, that's how it all turned out. But it all turned out with me deciding to expand the team, expand the operation, not wanting to do all by myself.
Wow, very good. So I've got a couple more questions for you. Since you've done both, you've done sales and you've been a leader in your role, can you give 2 to 3 sales tips for an entrepreneur in B2B or B2C sales? And also from a leadership perspective, 2 to 3 key takeaways they can have today.
I haven't thought about this long time. So with the sales, I think it's easier. But I think they overlap. For sales, preparation is one of the key steps to take away. How well you map out the way you work, your sales focus, and your week and your days and your hours, and how you're going to fill those days and hours. My son asked me, he's 23, so he asked me one of those days, how do you build good habits? And I said, one of the ways to build good habits is have good goals, ambitious goals that are going to give meaning to this effort, that are actually motivating you to try harder. And so also the same applies to sales. If you have goals that are sufficiently high, not ridiculously high, but sufficiently high for you in the short term, you can have ridiculously high goals in the long term. That's okay. You shouldn't have them in the short term. And so there's reasonably like sort of goals that make you make an effort. These are the ones that create the whole sort of structure of moving forward. And then the last one I would say is technical, is really how well you build trust so that you open up the client, or the client decides to open up and actually share their shortcomings and needs and fears and goals, and then how well you can elaborate on those. So when you feel that there is actually exists a need that your product can fill, and then you sort of try to match whatever you're selling and however you're presenting, so that you only speak the bare necessity based on what you find out from the client. But often the opposite is true. The clients say, "Well, what do you want to sell me?" So why don't you sell me? And they start sort of putting you on the spot, and then you become a talking machine and a sort of talking brochure, trying to exemplify the good points of the product. At the same time, the client becomes more resistant. The more you talk, the more they mentally push you away. So this all can be reversed with this third thing I told you, which is really how do you get into the very heart of the matter and how you become this trusted advisor who asks good questions, explains why he asks or she asks those questions, and so that the client gradually feels more and more relaxed about actually opening up about their needs and what are they satisfying and what not, and so on. And also to say it, don't pretend to be anything, just be who you are. Don't be a jerk also. You know, a lot of leaders become, the more leaders they become, the more jerks they become. Be a normal human being and respect people. And so I think that would be the first or maybe the biggest one for the leadership. Recruiting, like I said before, also. And then of course energy. Energy also is good itself, because if you are a leader, then your responsibility is to go first to the places that nobody has been before, and you need energy and confidence for that. And this energy is sort of contagious to others in your team as well. So that's sort of having the levels of energy you're given. I think it's kind of hard to determine in big steps, but in small steps, you can guard your own energy, and you can have those higher energy levels that are also very attractive, but also very useful to other people.
So we can take some more time, because I was curious to give these guys some language of sales, or leadership while they are doing it in practicality. Uh, you said that a good salesperson is genuine, is a trusted advisor, and they ask the right questions, so they're able to find the need and they're able to put their product together as a solution. Can you give some examples of any good questions, maybe a sale that you made or you saw somebody else make practically, where certain questions came out which were the right questions?
Let me take a step backwards before I try to answer that. I think that I said the first thing in sales, remember I said preparation. And so preparation has two parts in your question, or my answer to your question. Number one, reason. Salespeople are bad at asking questions, specifically good questions, is maybe surprising. But I think that the product knowledge levels of most salespeople are way less than they should be. They don't know their product very well. And so if you don't know your product very well, and you don't know the customer's business, or like the ways of doing business, or the customer's life, what their life is like, it's a B2C situation, then how can you ask this proper probing, revealing question? So this is the generic answer to the question. Know your product extremely well, and then have brains and guts for time to invest in preparing multiple paths of your sales interview. So of course, the most simple way to look at it is that people tend to ask too many sort of situational questions. What's your revenue? Like how many people you have, and then how many branches you have, and what products you sell, and what the clients say. But then the needs questions. You know the book called Spin Selling by Neil Racken. It's a sales classic, like for 34 years ago. And so he emphasized in that book also that if people stay superficially on those situational questions, the client gets irritated because client knows all those answers. So it's basically client providing service and value for the salespeople. It should be the other way around. And so the actual questions to ask on top of those situational or fact questions would be really directly dealing with the challenges or the wishes that the client has, and then probing deeper, how do these challenges sort of manifest themselves? What's the evidence for those? How important it is for the client to get rid of those problems or challenges. And so basically by going in that path, then suddenly the salesperson starts providing value for the client because the client maybe hasn't thought of it in those terms. And so suddenly the client goes, wow, I have this problem that I haven't really paid attention to so elaborately, like this guy is asking and guiding me through. And then suddenly before, I always like to say when I want to sell, I said, I promise you one thing, maybe you buy from us, maybe you don't. But I promise that if we spend an hour together, it will be an hour well spent and you will have gotten value regardless of whether you buy or not. So that was my intention. And it often worked. And very often it also resulted in a sale.
So now, Peep, to summarize the interview, I have to ask you this question. And this is personally from me. Through your life, having lived life so far, what have you understood about life? As a lesson that you can provide to us, because you've gone through ups and downs, and you've reached the place which a lot of people call success. It depends how people think about success, but let's say from a financial success perspective, what have you realized about life?
Well, that's a big one.
Yes.
Coming back to the theme of my book, I would say now when we look long term, then it doesn't hurt to have ridiculously high goals, visions for yourself for a longer period of time. I do believe, I actually do believe that your reality will almost never be surpassed by your highest vision for your future. It was almost always going to be lower. Very few exceptions where it might surpass. But so basically, you have to. I believe that one has to, or you have to, or I have to realize that what I think for 10 or 20 years into the future, the reality will be that or less. So it's up to you how you're gonna see it. The other thing, what I've come to realize about life is that it really pays and makes sense to work with your past, to sort of heal the wounds that everybody has gotten in the childhood and the youth and adolescence. And so basically to be able to, in the future, at some age, like I'm 52 right now, and I can honestly say that I look back on all of those 52 years, and I have no grudges. I have no sort of sorrows or regrets or hurts. I look back at my life, and it puts a little smile or a big smile on my face, or it just leaves me neutral. No negativity there. And I have really worked almost 20 years consciously to do that. So to clean up my backpack from this unnecessary little or big stones that we all carry that make us sort of compressed and make us feel offended or hurt or disappointed when we think or talk about our past. One of my favorite psychotherapists, she said that your past episode, for example, some hurtful episode is healed more or less when you can freely speak about it, when it doesn't make you cry, when you remember or you describe it to somebody. And so the last thing I'd like to say here which kind of relates to that second one, is if somebody would ask me, what are some of the keys that you've learned by this time in your life that allow for a happy life, allow for being happy, then among other things, I would say that one of the keys to happiness is the clear conscience, clean heart, clear conscience, so that you have nothing to be ashamed or regretful. That basically, if you have, like, I think the Catholics have it kind of nice, they have the thing, they go to confession, and I don't know how thoroughly it works, I'm not a Catholic, but I'm pretty sure that it does something to them, it cleanses their soul, it gets some sins perhaps forgiven, they can forgive maybe themselves, if nothing else. And so, if you ask how you do it, I would say you right your wrongs, you make up for your transgressions, and so you ask for forgiveness and you forgive yourself, So basically, can't hide those bad things you've done, especially to others, but also to yourself under those stones, and hope that nobody sees. So this is my life lesson 101 for today, for India, for anybody, for myself, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, well, no, that's very, very deep. Yeah, I think we don't forgive ourselves easily, and that energy stays stuck somewhere. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's how you feel about it. And if you can forgive yourself, you're able to move on. I think it's very deep, and people need to do some soul searching on what you said. Well, I want to say thank you, for that, Pape. It's like you've made me think about what you just said. And I hope guys feel what I'm trying to give, or what we discussed today. I want you guys to realize that this man's reached the level in life where you probably are aiming at today. He's gone through a lot of things that you are going through right now, and everything that he shared today is coming from that experience. So go through this video, listen to it again and again, understand, find your own meaning in his words. Everybody's going to find a different meaning where you are, and then implement it. And Pep, I want to say thank you to you for making this possible. If people wanted to get in touch with you, if you want that, where can they find you? Can they email you? Is there a social media channel or a website they can reach you on?
My Facebook account, of course, is private under my real name. I do have a one-page website in English that is a little bit out of date, but still it's vain.ee, vain.ee. And I think there is an email there if somebody wants to write it. I don't know if I will be able to answer many emails, but yes, I'm available. I'm alive. I'm not in that game anymore like we thought before. I'm out of the training and the motivational game, but still, I like we said, spoke earlier. Maybe there is a way you want to make this book available, then by all means, the most important person to your people, And you made this possible, not me. And I'm very glad that you reached out. I'm very glad that we became acquainted. And it looks like there is a very good potential for a lifelong friendship. And I'm personally very fond of India. I've been 6 or 7 times, and sometimes, for some real reason, I always feel like coming home. So I am I'm very biased, positively biased towards India, towards you, and towards everybody who is watching this video right now.
Yeah, the energy that got created when we first spoke, which people kind of don't know about, that energy gave me energy. It continues to give me energy, and wow, what discussion, what conversation was that, which made this possible? Yeah, it's a long way for us, in terms of friendship, and I know it's going to continue. So I appreciate that. Right?
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Take care.